Hey there, EB here. Welcome to the Anything But Bland Weekly Update. I apologize that my face looks like I got hit with a rake over it. I went to the dermatologist and had to get some moles and some skin tags and just aging spots because I'm an old man. Cut off this week, so I wasn't in a fist fight. So everybody relax. Um, Really excited about talking about this week, about what happened. First, let's talk about Veterans Day. It's such a great day for our country to pay homage and respect to those that have given their life, that have sacrificed, those that have been injured, families that have sacrificed their loved ones for the cause of freedom and democracy and protecting um, our army bases, our government buildings, and on foreign lands and our foreign interests. I mean, it's just very humbling. Uh, and as I've always said, that it's one of the greatest regrets that I've ever had in my life that I didn't serve my country. Done so many different things in my life, but that is one thing I really haven't done. And so I have tremendous respect for those in the military and their families. Very excited that this week the government shutdown ended. It was a shutdown that I don't think should have occurred. I don't think we have a government that can function anymore based on compromise. It's become such a dirty word. And whether you want to say the Democrats won or lost, or they didn't get the concession for the extension of the Obamacare um, subsidies at the end of the year, which is going to raise the Affordable Care Act by 30%. I do think that they accomplished a lot. Hey, Banana Hammock, how are you? I do think that the Democrats accomplished a lot of what they wanted to because it framed the issue. The Republicans never were going to yield. The Republicans would have let the government remain closed. Trump was going to not give out the SNAP benefits. You saw that even after federal judges ordered that they were to be funded, he kept taking it up, and the Supreme Court, surprisingly, Ketanji Brown Jackson, she voted that the SNAP benefits didn't have to be funded. Um, but what it showed is that the Republicans have no plan for health care other than to cut the costs and cut the benefits, excuse me. They've been saying since 2015, and Trump has been saying since 2015, we got this beautiful plan, we got this beautiful new plan that we're going to be introducing. There is no plan. The Republicans have no alternative for the Affordable Care Act, other than just totally dismantle it. They have um, long not supported Medicaid, and so all of these social health programs they would like to see cut dramatically or eliminated. I think in a free society, healthcare and free society, industrial society like ours that is as successful as we are, I think healthcare and basic food nutrition is a human right, and that you should have that. So John Thune, in return for agreeing to the shutdown to be over, has agreed that there will be a vote in the Senate on extending the Affordable Care Act subsidies beyond December 31st. It's going to lose. But this is going to show the Republicans don't want health care subsidies and the Democrats do. So it's going to put it stark right in front of everyone. I don't even think if it gets to the House that the House will even take a vote. So for that, I do think that there was, some utility and benefit for the Democrats. I think it's clear that the Democrats are for health care and the Republicans are not, because the Republicans do not have an alternative. They've had 10 years to come up with some other system. They don't like the single payer system. They don't like a lot of what the Affordable Care Act offers, and but they don't seem to be able to come up with another system. The election clearly, the election that took place earlier this month, clearly said that affordability and healthcare are two prominent issues which caused a lot of the Hispanics to go back to the Democrats, a lot of the young blacks who voted for Trump to go back to the Democrats, and the independents to swing the Democratic way in both the New Jersey and the Virginia gubernatorial election. I think that the election had serious consequences for the Republicans, and they're starting to see that. Trump was, a little too brazen with and cavalier about what he thought about those that are suffering in our economy. I just heard a statistic yesterday that consumer confidence is at its all-time low since 1951 is its all-time low. And so what Trump is saying right now is this is a con job. It's the greatest con job in history. That it's the Democrats who are convincing even some of his base, and it's the media who is convincing some of his base that there is suffering going on in our country. Suffering is going on. The one thing that Trump's very good at, the more he says it, the louder he says it, it must be true. He is saying that people don't have an affordability problem. They feel it. No matter what he says, no matter how many times he says it, they feel it. They feel the price of groceries. They feel the price of utilities. No, it may not be inflation where they're going up, but they remain high. Remember, Trump ran on saying, I will lower your prices. I will lower the cost of groceries. And his tariffs are having these unintended consequences because he's fighting Brazil, because Brazil is prosecuting one of his former uh, leaders that he got along with and he has respect for. The guy was corrupt. So Trump raised taxes on Brazil by 50%. Well, the response to that and the repercussion is the cost of coffee, which many, many Americans drink, has gone through the roof. And so Scott Bessent and Trump said this week that they're going to do some targeting modifications of tariffs so that they're not that restrictive and hurt the American consumer. I don't drink coffee. Never have, believe it or not, I've never drank a cup of coffee. I drink iced tea and, I'll have a sports energy drink every once in a while, but I don't drink coffee. So I don't suffer from that. But I have a lot of friends that do, and they either go to McDonald's and they either go to Starbucks, and they're paying a fortune now for coffee. And so tariffs are causing hardship to the American consumer. Beef prices are going through the roof. So no matter what Trump says, it's not a con job. People actually feel it. They're going to hire 15% less holiday labor than they did last year. That's a forecast that the holiday spending is not going to be as robust as it was. So I do see that there was benefit. They're going to extend the SNAP benefits till next September. They're going to extend the continuing resolution on the budget until the end of January. So it's quite possible at the end of January of 2026, 2 months from now, that we have another shutdown. So we're going to find out where we stand on healthcare right now. 71% of Americans want healthcare. 50% of MAGA are concerned about health care. So we're going to get a Senate vote. The politician is going to have to come out and either vote for the subsidies to continue or vote against it. I don't, again, think that this is a con job where, the media is creating this sentiment that people are suffering. I see the suffering out there. I see restaurants that aren't as crowded as they used to be. I'm seeing people talking about not going away for the holidays or not doing as much for Thanksgiving as they used to do. So that's one of the things that I think we're going to have to wait and see. President Trump granted 77 pardons to individuals who were charged with overturning the 2020 election. This is the higher ups. This is the Rudy Giuliani's, the Sidney Powell's, the Eastmans, the guy that came up with the way to challenge the electors and convince Vice President Pence that he should not, uh, certify the election in 2020. Um, these are the people that went to Georgia to try to get the 11,275 votes. So it's just whitewashing history. I know that Trump is going to try to get the House of Representatives to rescind the two impeachments that he got. But here's where we are, folks, that if the Democrats win the midterms in 2026, Trump is going to be impeached again. The big thing right now is that this is self-inflicted is the Epstein matter. We saw that files were released that clearly contradict Trump. He was the best friend of Epstein from at least 1993 through 2009. No question that they had a falling out. No question that Donald Trump didn't want Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell to come to Mar-a-Lago and take the girls that were working there and hire them as massage people. But what did come out is that Trump had a long lasting relationship with Epstein. I don't think anything has come out that said Donald Trump did anything inappropriate with any women. However, he was aware of what was going on there at that Kink Island because Epstein said there was a real funny anecdote that happened. And a lot of these predate Trump running for president, so there would be no incentive for Epstein to make this stuff up to hurt Trump. But he said Trump was walking through the villa and there was a ton of, I guess, good looking younger women in the pool. And Trump was staring at him and he walked right into a glass door. I mean, he knew what was going on there. People know what is going on in an island when you have a lot of women and young girls. And it's gross. I mean, can you imagine these old, stinky gas guys, just guys like me, coming out in their robes with young women? I mean, it's the grossest thing in the world, and it's disgusting. And if it turns out that he had knowledge of what is going on and did nothing about it or condoned it, I think his base is going to make it hell to pay for him. This is a big issue that I think the Democrats and Republicans see the same way, and that is these older gentlemen, older men preying on younger girls sexually is just disgusting. It's trafficking, it's rape, and we're not going to tolerate it. Trump said he doesn't want to hear about affordability anymore. The problem is he's creating these images of having lunch with his billionaire friends, rebuilding the ballroom, doing the Lincoln bathroom, having on Halloween a Great Gatsby party of wealthy people is not the visual that you would like to see. Trump again asked the Supreme Court to block a lower court ruling requiring that SNAP benefits be given out for tens of millions of Americans. We don't know when this food is ultimately going to be delivered. There's many people that are starving right now that are sacrificing food for their children and have to get it from churches and from food banks. We don't know when it's going to get started up again. We don't know when the airlines are going to run at full capacity again. And losing those flights for the past week and a half is going to raise holiday ticket prices through the roof. Trump is now worried that the Supreme Court, who heard arguments on his tariffs, and there were a lot of questions, hard questions that were being asked by Amy Coney Barrett and also Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice, that would make you, if you were part of the administration, concerned that these tariffs are going to be overturned because they used a statute that did not specifically mention tariffs. If they do, then $3 trillion has to be repaid to some of these foreign manufacturers or some of the importers who imported these goods, which is going to be a problem. Thankfully, the Supreme Court finally decided that they would honor stare decisis or precedent, and they did not agree to hear a case to overturn the decision legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide. I was surprised because I really thought that Alito and Thomas would try to get that overturned. Elon Musk just got a contract last week, Friday, approved for $1 trillion. I get it that it's an incentive-laden contract that's based on how big Tesla gets, how much their robotic industry department gets, division, and how AI progresses. But it really is amazing that we're talking about $1 trillion. So Elon Musk's employment contract is worth more than every other country in the world except two on their budget. Um, a new politician was referred to the Justice Department for prosecution. Eric Swalwell was referred for mortgage fraud. He participated in the January 6th committee on the House. Trump has always said he wanted him prosecuted. He's now being looked at for mortgage fraud, saying that his Washington, D.C. residence was his primary residence and not the one he lives in California. And that's a tricky thing because they spend basically about half the year in each. So he's the guy also, if you YouTube, it's pretty funny. He was in an interview when he was in the House hallway, and he toots, he cuts a toot. And you can hear it on the camera. So Trump says that he's going to issue a $2,000 tariff dividend to everyone except high-income people. No sooner did he announce that Scott Bessent said, "Not sure of that," and also the Republicans said, "Absolutely no way." They don't want the free giveaways that he wants to do can really wreck our deficit, most importantly, and our national debt. And that was the complaint, remember, that the Republicans said when Biden wanted to give away money at COVID, and he wanted to get rid of all student loan debt, or a lot of the student loan debt. It's fun, but what happens is they take this money and they don't save it. They don't let it go towards paying for ordinary household income. It's usually for big purchases, and it could create inflation. So I don't ever see the $2,000 tariff dividend coming. Inflation is definitely going up in our country right now, from food to furniture. Car prices are up 5.5% nationwide this year. Walmart's prices are up 5.3%. Target's prices are up 7.5%. You're paying 19% more for steak, 14% more for ground beef. The ranchers are blaming smaller herds because of a drought, but they're also saying that foreign tariffs on beef that Trump will not do now for Argentina will hurt them too. I listened to one of the freed Israeli hostages talk about his captivity, and it just is unthinkable horror what they went through right now, what they went through over the past 2 years. He talked about being raped. He talked about having to perform sex acts on his captors. He talked about being beaten and them spitting on his food. It was stuff that, was reminiscent of what happens in concentration camps or in areas in Africa where people are being persecuted. Ukraine wiped out 20,000 Russian troops with a single unit. That shows that Putin is reeling right now. And once he feels that he's not going to end up winning this war, I think that this is when it will escalate and something major will happen. The Justice Department, even though Gavin Newsom and his Prop 50 was successful, and the people voted that they want to reshape the districts to eliminate Republican seats in response to what Texas did, now the Justice Department is suing to block California from changing its House map that could tip the control of Congress. Isn't that interesting? They go to Texas and they get Governor Abbott to agree for the Senate in Texas to change all their districts so that they can eliminate Democrats. But when the Democrats do it, they want to go sue in court. FAA is cutting flights, continues to cut flights. I just saw a crash across my scene, even though that the government has remained open. So that's going to be an issue. Um, we've had two jihadists, 19-year-old kids in New Jersey that were plotting a Boston marathon type bombing. They plan to join ISIS. So this is important work that the FBI and the CIA continue to do to make sure that we don't have terrorism on our shores. Yesterday, Letitia James and James Comey challenged in front of Cameron Curry, our federal judge here in South Carolina, that Lindsay Halligan, the prosecutor who signed the indictments against them from the Eastern District of Virginia, was a temporary appointment, and her appointment should only have lasted 120 days. So that is going to be really interesting. She was highly skeptical of the government's position, so we're going to see where that shakes out. Um, Trump announced a deal with Eli Lilly, that there were going to be discounts next year going into the weight loss drug and that Medicare may cover it. That is a good thing that President Trump did, and I applaud him 100%. If he could get these weight reducing drugs, Wegovy and all these drugs, to be lower in cost and that Medicare could pay for some of it, I think it's going to be the greatest thing in our country. Elise Stefanik is running against Kathleen Hochul for the gubernatorial race in New York State. She says it's an existential battle to save Western civilization from socialism and, by proxy, from Muslim leadership. It's going to be very interesting. I think she's going to have another Republican running against her, but Hochul endorsing Mamdani is a big thing. Mamdani this week, he appointed one of Bill de Blasio's economic advisors, and the person who's handling his transition is a renowned socialist. We just had a socialist mayor woman elected in Seattle. I think she's like 31 years old. She actually is supported by her parents. So socialism seems to be the soup of the day. See how far it gets. But I think Kathy Hochul has already said that she's not going to give the free buses that Mamdani wants. I think he is making an absolute mistake by choosing de Blasio people to help run his administration. De Blasio was a failed mayor. Nancy Pelosi is not seeking re-election at 86 years old next year. She would win. She finally is giving up her seat, which it's about time. I think that there should be an age limit for congressional House of Representatives and senators of 75 years. We have age limits in many other things in our society. I applaud her years of public service, but she made a fortune being in the House. The House members inside trade all the time on stocks, and she's almost a billionaire with her husband, Paul Pelosi. Her daughter is not going to run for that seat. What is an interesting race is that Jack Schlossberg, who is the nephew of President John F. Kennedy, his mother was Kathleen Kennedy Schlossberg, John Kennedy's daughter. He's running for Jerry Nadler's seat in New York City. And there's some pretty famous people that are running for it. There is a gay member of the New York Assembly Council, New York City Council, who's running, who's well respected. Jack Schlossberg has tormented his uncle, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's head of the HHS. He talks about how crazy he is. He has a big internet following, Schlossberg, blogs a lot, seems a little wacky on some stuff. Trump's new gold Oval Office sign draws mock and anger. He has a golden ornate sign that says the Oval Office. 4 out of 5 women in last Tuesday's election voted Democrat. A board member of the Heritage Foundation Anti-Semitism Task Force resigned Wednesday because he said that the think tank did not come out strong enough against Hunter Tucker Carlson interviewing the rabid anti-Semite and nationalist and racist Nick Fuentes. I think it's a bad thing. I think Republicans have to denounce that kind of uh, supporter. It's a supporter that Republicans do not want. Urban Meyer is reportedly turned down by Penn State. He claims he was offered $15 million to take the job. I don't think anybody wants Urban Meyer right now. He hasn't coached in college since 2018. I don't think he's going to understand the NIL money. And he didn't have a great stop after going to Jacksonville in the NFL. He did do well at the Buckeyes and won a national championship. I think James Franklin's either going to end up with the Arizona job or Virginia Tech. I did see that Dabo Sweeney name was mentioned for the Arkansas job. Dabo isn't going anywhere. Dabo would be crazy to leave the ACC to go coach in the SEC. You can't win. You can't win year in, year out in the SEC. So I do not see it happening. The former Prince Andrew, who's now known as Andrew Mormont Windsor, and his wife Fergie, ex-wife Fergie, they're both being looked at for criminal prosecution. Obviously, former Prince Andrew for what he did with Virginia Guilfile and some of the other girls. There's some allegations that he could be criminally prosecuted for that. His wife, Sarah Ferguson, she's accused of embezzling money from various charities and unscrupulous use of charitable money. The last ever penny was minted in the Franklin Mint in Philadelphia earlier this week. I think it's a piece of currency that we don't use. I don't carry them. I do agree with President Trump that they should be gone. Donald Trump was at the game last week at the Washington Commanders. They lost, and he has told people that he wants the new stadium that's going to be built in Washington, D.C. to be named after him. That's a bad thing. When you name buildings or monuments after living people, it could be a problem. And just ask Penn State about Joe Paterno, of all people. You never would have thought before the Sandusky scandal came around that, Joe Pa would not have his statues and monuments and stadium names and everything, that he would do anything wrong. But it just goes to show you really shouldn't name after the living or until somebody really retires or is dead. So I disagree with that. But I think we're going to see Donald Trump's name all over government buildings, all over the White House for years and years to come. John Gruden, who is a tremendous coached in the NFL, coached the Super Bowl. He's on ESPN. He runs the Quarterback Academy. He was discharged as the Raiders coach a couple years ago because the NFL released some texts where he used some homophobic language and some racist language and jokes. He is probably going to come back and coach, and his star was rising, but it seemed to be falling right now. Trump did grant a pardon to legendary Mets and Yankees baseball player Darryl Strawberry over his tax evasion conviction. I totally agree. This is from the 90s. Darryl Strawberry, who was a generational talent, was convicted, did his time, and now he runs a ministry and got over his drug addiction and is helping other people. So that, to me, is what pardons are made for. Lincoln Riley probably is going to be fired by USC this year, the Trojans. I think his brother's going to be fired by Dabo Sweeney as the offensive coordinator for Clemson. Giants are fired Brian Daboll, their coach. They had another fourth quarter collapse last week. They lost. He came over from the Buffalo Bills, so it'll be interesting to see whether the general manager who came over with him got fired. Now, Daboll did a good job in drafting Jackson Dart. He's a good quarterback. Jameis Winston's going to be the backup and maybe start this week if Dart, who's under concussion protocol, does not play. Russell Wilson is relegated to the third team. Eagles are doing well. I think Denver Broncos are doing well. The Colts are doing well. I see them. The Seattle Seahawks are another good team. So that is pretty interesting. Two pitchers this week were uh, accused of throwing games. This is Chase and Ortiz. They agreed in advance with their co-conspirators on specific pitches that they would throw in Major League Baseball games. Um, and then in turn, their co-conspirators use that information to place hundreds of fraudulent bets on those pitches. Uh, Baseball, basketball, and sports in general has got a real gambling problem. Wendy Williams, it is now alleged, just had another exam and she does not suffer from aphasia or dementia. That's according to the new doctors. So they're going to see if her guardianship can be canceled. Britney Spears, we continue to see erratic behavior, her doing things on film, uh, on these selfie videos that are very concerning for those that love her and those that follow her. So that is everything in my notes. Let's go to some questions. Um, Audience questions say, Alex Murdaugh stole 19 million. I would love to know your thoughts on where uh, all this money he embezzled ended up. I don't think he spent it on opioids, says Kathy Heath Dixon. I totally agree. I think this has been totally overblown. I think Alex has a small a addiction problem, not a capital A addiction problem, or had. I don't think it affected his life to the point that he couldn't operate and function. It did affect some of his daily behavior and some of his snappy attitude, probably. I think the cash is somewhere on Mizell, or it's over in an island on a bank, or he owns interests in partnerships that are not legally on paper, but he owns interests in a lot of land. Um, Question regarding Alex Murdaugh's attorney's recent statement. Why does anyone actually care about Alex's opinion? Even more importantly, why are so many media outlets giving him a voice? Look, it's a fascinating case. So anything that comes out that Alex Murdaugh says the Hulu series doesn't accurately portray him, or Dick Harpootlian or Jim Griffin says that the series doesn't accurately portray him, it's always going to make news. This is a case that will keep on living. It's just got that much, and this is from Casey Odell. It's just got that much public interest. The newly disclosed Jeffrey Epstein emails definitely complicates matters for Donald Trump. The fact that he brought Lauren Boebert and had his officials in the White House meet with her in the Situation Room, where you can't bring in a camera, to try to get her to change her vote against the 218 votes for Congress to vote to release these Epstein files and compel the DOJ to release their files, tells me that he's concerned. Even if he had nothing to do with it, he's concerned about friends being named in that. I think it's a big thing long term for Trump, and I think it's a real problem for him. Here's some sound bites. When the powerful get privacy and the public gets silence, justice isn't equal, it's protected. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's from Lord Abbott. I think the Senate showdown is going to be so interesting in December. This is a question about the healthcare vote that's going to come up, because it's going to define from the parties who cares for healthcare and who does not. Unless the Republicans can come up in the next 2 weeks with an alternative proposal to the Affordable Care Act, I think they're going to lose on this one. Airlines struggling. We're going to see massive increases in the cost of tickets. I think what has happened with the air traffic controllers and the TSA and not being paid, we may never get those workers back. I heard Trump denigrate them earlier this week and say that he can easily replace them. I don't think so. There is a bar complaint against Lindsay Halligan. It spotlights egregious circumstances. A legal watchdog group has filed a professional complaint against Lindsay Halligan. She's the appointed Eastern District of Virginia U.S. attorney that signed the Comey and Letitia James indictments. They filed it in Florida and Virginia. They accuse her of unethical conduct while pursuing Trump's vendetta agenda. But experts say bar discipline cases are notoriously hard to prove and they take years to resolve. I can tell you that I had a personal experience. I have, I think, 2 open bar complaints against me right now from the Murdaugh case that Dick Harpootlian filed, and I think someone related to Parker Convenience Store filed. They haven't been resolved. They concern some of the statements that I made to the press. These are serious complaints. Remember, Rudy Giuliani was disbarred by the state of New York. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's emails and text messages that ultimately come out where Trump is pushing his U.S. attorney to bring these charges. Let's look and see who's attended today. Banana Hammock says howdy. Adam H. JB61 says that Israel's the biggest issue. Americans are finally awakening. Talks about that Trump is pro H-1B1 visa. That's a big fight with the MAGA wing of the party. Trump agrees with Elon Musk that we need to bring in foreign talent, foreign intellectual talent, and have them work in our country or not let them leave after they get educated here. Steve Bannon and the hard wing of the MAGA group thinks that we have plenty of talent here in our country, that we don't need to get it from other places. Adam says that groceries are super expensive. Trump is done to me, according to Adam. Adam says with Epstein in Israel, it's a done deal. That's right. He's now offering 50-year mortgages on homes. That will never pass. Yes, it will lower the payments and make affordable housing for people who otherwise can't afford it, but you'll just end up paying interest. You'll never gain any equity in homes. I don't think it's going to go. Adam says the tariffs are no good. Banana Hammock says I bought a 24-ounce coffee and it was $11. Eggs are the only thing that are down. Everything else is high as a kite. Trump is big pharma, according to Adam, and he doesn't talk about the national debt. Banana Hammock also says she doesn't believe that we're ever going to get the $2,000 dividend check. So that is everyone and their comments. John Swift wants to know who would be best next governor for South Carolina. I think of all the candidates right now, to be honest, anybody but Nancy Mace. I think that Pam Everett, who is the lieutenant governor, is a good person. Certainly Ralph Norman has, the credentials. He's been in the House of Representatives, and certainly Alan Wilson as the Attorney General is somebody to be strongly considered. But anybody but Nancy Mace. Do not think she has the character to be a fair leader for all. I think she is abusive. I think she's demeaning. I think what she did in the Charleston airport is who she is. She showed you who she is, so believe it. So with that said, thank you so much. EB out. Everybody have a great weekend. Thanksgiving's coming up. Bye-bye.